Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Imani. If you're new, what's up, what's poppin'? We're going to go ahead and get into today's look. Today's look is about the pink under eye trend, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to go in with a cream or a powder, but I think I actually want to use a powder, so let's go ahead and get into the routine. Also, this video is going to be kind of different. I'm actually getting butterflies right now because I'm kind of nervous to talk about it because I think 2 people in the world actually know this about me, and it's my mom and my husband. Yeah, so let's go ahead and let's talk about it, and I pray that I can get my message across without yeah, I'm already nervous. So for most of y'all that don't know me, my name is Imani Elizabeth Curry. I am born in, forgive me if I say I'm a lot because this is kind of nerve-wracking. Like, I'm actually shaking right now even thinking about talking about this, and I'm kind of probably going to debate about even posting this. So I guess the only way to really tell my story is to kind of tell it backwards, actually. So I'm going to start with what you guys know now. So you guys obviously know that I love makeup. I do makeup. I'm a mom. I'm married. I've been married for 4 years. I have 3 beautiful babies. Yeah, got out the military about 3 years ago, and I decided to leave school to pursue my passion in the beauty industry. Biggest leap of faith I ever took. And this is probably the next biggest one. So, going back to high school, and I guess I kind of just have to jump right into it. I don't really want to give you guys some whole monologue and dialogue type of thing, a biography. I just want to kind of get in there and say what I gotta say. So, Jesus, my stomach literally hurts right now because I don't normally tell anybody this, but I feel like I need to say this. So, starting with high school, I was very much in a depression, and this depression dates back, and you guys are gonna find out how far it dates back. I did a lot of things to escape talking about my depression and anxiety because I have really, really bad anxiety. Most of the time, what I would do was do something I was typically comfortable with doing, which was cheer and track. And then I also was considered to be a workaholic because I didn't want to actually stop and think about the things that were going on in my life. Really didn't. And I think I'm going to lead this to say also too, I always hated this statement whenever somebody committed suicide or, hold on.
Just going to check on you.
It's funny because I was actually, this YouTube video I'm recording because I felt compelled to like kind of tell my story a little bit. So I'm a little bit nervous, and I don't know if I'm going to post it right away, but now I'm over here dealing with anxiety, thinking about potentially even like talking about what I'm going to talk about today. So yeah, it's kind of different for me, especially in the setting because, you know, only you and Dre know.
Right.
So yeah, it's intense. I'm smiling, but I think that's like what marks is like a nervous smile.
Hey, but it has been nerve-wracking. I'm still not ready to tell my full testimony because I stuff that I have never told anyone. So I'm still not ready to tell mine. So more power to you, and I'm praying for you. Should be a healing, part of healing too.
It is. I think it's just nerve-wracking because, like I said, only 2 people in the world. Well, 2 people in the world now.
I feel like people are gonna judge. No one's going to judge you, and if they do judge, that's ignorance.
And I think, you know, the biggest thing, I think it's, I don't know, maybe it's the enemy trying to hold me back from sharing the story.
It probably is.
And that's why I feel so nervous.
Because there's nothing to be ashamed of, is it? Right?
Oh, no, I'm not ashamed of it at all. And my biggest thing was if I could help the next person, I would.
Right. That's what else could what happened to you. But it didn't define. It's not defining who you are. It's not defining who you are becoming, I should say.
Yeah, like I want people to understand that, you know, in times where everything seems dark and it seems like nothing is going to let up, or it just seems like, you know, you were only designed to go through shit, you know, that's not the end all be all.
You're like a light in that world, a light in the darkness, because you went through it. You got through it.
Yeah.
And now you are that light.
I kept actually doing my makeup. It's funny because in that moment, I don't even know where I left off. My mom called, and I feel like that was God trying to give me a message for what I'm about to do, which is funny because I was actually debating about whether or not I wanted to share it. And, you know, God told me that it's time through my mom right now. So that's what I'm going to do. Oh, let me move my mirror. And I feel like the most comfortable way for me to do this is to do my makeup too. In high school, I was a busybody, but because I was depressed and I never wanted to stop and actually sit down and deal with what was going on in my life. During that time, like I said, I was a cheerleader, I ran track, and I had a job. I worked in the front office. I was a peer mediator. You know, busybody. Like I said, I didn't want to stop and think about anything that was going on in my life. At the time, most of the time, I actually thought about running away from home because during this time, my mom, which I love dearly, if you guys have watched my videos, you've seen her before. That is my lady. I love her. And in my eyes, she could do no wrong. Even though we had that kind of relationship where we could stop and talk to each other and be like, you know, mom, that wasn't right or whatever. But it's neither here nor there. At the time, my mom was dealing with a narcissistic man who did not treat her the way any woman should be treated. And I got to see that. And I got to see how that really affected her, especially because all she wanted to do was love and help him. But if you know what a narcissistic person is, you know that these people cannot actually be helped because they thrive off of dysfunction, they thrive off of pain from others, and they thrive off of seeing you fail. And he did a lot of things to my mom to try to break her. And when he realized that couldn't work or wouldn't work, he knew the only other thing to truly hurt my mom was to get to her kids. So this particular man, let's just call him Adam. Adam was in our family for 10 years. My mom knew him back in Virginia. I think she met him when I was in maybe second grade. But, you know, fast forward to fourth grade, I believe, is when they actually started to pursue each other. So Adam is now in the picture from my fourth grade year, and we were the best of friends. When I say the best of friends, I mean the best of friends. And we would have dance battles, and you know, he would make me feel like I had a male figure in my life that actually loved me, my mom, and my siblings. He was amazing in the beginning. Then we moved to Texas and everything changed. I started seeing things that were very questionable, but I was also very young at the time. I was in the fifth grade, so I didn't really understand what was going on. I just knew I saw my mom and him arguing a lot. I would see a behavior change with him that was just not conducive to what a person in a relationship should be doing. But at the same time, I stayed in a child's place to the extent of, you know, that has nothing to do with me. I don't really understand what's going on. All I know is I did see my mom hurt a few times, and, you know, I'd be the one to sit with her and, you know, wipe her tears. But at the same time, my mom was that strong of a woman that most of the time she also really didn't let us see, you know, her hurting because she didn't, we were children. Adam progressively grew worse over time. I'm not going to give too much about Adam because that's not my story to tell. That's my mother's. I'll just tell you guys what I went through. Adam started randomly nitpicking at a lot of things that I was doing. No matter what it was, whether it was cleaning the kitchen or my coming into myself as far as starting to like boys, and mainly those things. He was just very much so no. Everything was just no. I specifically remember one day I was in the living room. Of course, my mom, you know, told me to go take a bath with my sister. She was younger at the time. She was probably like in first grade or kindergarten, but she told me to go take a bath. And I remember this day because, in my mind, my mom said, basically go wash up. It didn't matter how, but go wash up. I remember him barging into the bathroom while I was naked in the shower with my sister. And he told me to turn off the water. And he looked at me and said, "What did your mother tell you to do?" And I said, "She told us to get washed up." He said, "No, what exactly did she tell you to do? Because now you're being defiant." And I was very confused. And he was like, "Don't look at me like you're stupid. What did she tell you to do?" So I was confused and I didn't answer. And so he proceeded to say, "Your mother told you to take a bath, not a shower. So why are you in the shower?" And I was confused because I knew my mom just meant go wash up. Didn't matter how, just go wash up. So as a 5th grade girl, I got beat or got whooped, or which some black households view as discipline at that time. I just know I got whooped with a belt, naked and wet, for taking a shower instead of a bath. And that is when a lot of things started shifting for me in the way I viewed him, because I didn't understand why I just got beat for cleaning myself, regardless of how I cleaned it. And that started a whirlpool of events with me and him. Fast forward into middle school. I remember I wanted to try out for cheer, and he told me only hoes cheer. And, that really hurt my feelings, because I was like, why do I have to be labeled as a hoe to cheer? So he tried to stop that. My mom had to literally bat him down and basically tell him, let her figure out what she wants to do. My mom didn't see nothing wrong with it. My mom was fully supportive of me wanting to cheer. I didn't ended up doing that year because, for one, in middle school, I didn't know at the time, they wanted you to get acclimated to the school, so they didn't really allow you to do too many sports, which was fine. So I waited till 7th grade instead, and I made the cheerleading team. At this point, I'm not going to give you guys too much details. I'm just going to give you a little bit at a time. Honestly, this story time might be more than one part, just because of how much goes into it. Honestly, with a lot of things that I did, he always had an issue with it. Or if he was supportive, he always tried to basically overdo a lot of things. Like, my coaches had to tell him, when she's on the court, she's mine, or you can't just walk out here and do whatever. And he would, of course, feel like he was insulted and felt like I needed to tell them that I'm that's my dad. You just need to let him do it. There was a set of rules. He would often put me in situations where I shouldn't have been as a child, because that's not my thing to tell another adult something, especially when they're only telling you what's right. So with him, he would feel disrespected if somebody put him in his place. And it was never to be disrespectful, but that was just who he was. Especially if it was a woman. He didn't really want a woman putting him in his place. A lot of the times when something would happen, when I would do regular preteen things, like things that I knew I shouldn't have been doing, but teens are going to test the water, and at the time I did. And in my mind, I didn't feel like the punishment ever fit the crime. I definitely feel like he was doing the absolute most with my punishments. He would take cheer from me, he would take track from me, knowing that the teams needed me. He would ground me for a month, but then forgot he grounded me until my mom gave me my phone back or told me I can go do something, and then he would say, no, she's still grounded. And mind you, this time it's probably been 2.5 months at this point, so I felt like I was in prison. Then when the whole boy craze thing came about, I wasn't allowed to look at, talk to, or nothing like that at all whatsoever. I know some parents will be like, you don't need a boyfriend at this time, blase blase, and I understand that. I get that. And I never really was trying to say, oh, I feel like I should have one. It was just, even if I thought about it, he didn't leave room for me to even remotely want to come and talk to him about, hey, I'm feeling this way as a kid. Can you talk to me as an adult to a kid? Help guide me in some sense. That was never the case. It was just always just no. I just said no. And with any kid, of course, we're going to rebel. But at the time, I really left that situation alone because I just didn't want to deal with it. But at the time, he always took something from me. It even came to one point that his own niece had said, I feel like you're nitpicking with her, and that caused the whole commotion. When he would get into it with my mom, he would blame me and say, you're the reason why me and your mother are arguing. It was always just me. And a lot of the things during that time really hurt me because nobody had known what I had went through years prior, and nobody knew that I was in a very, very deep depression. Honestly, I felt like I was alone in a world full of people. I felt like I was on just pilot mode. I didn't feel like I was existing. I just felt like I was life's punching bag, and that's all I was ever meant to go through. Nobody knew that. I remember one day he read my diary, and I had basically said that. And instead of embracing me, I got yelled at and cursed at and said, so this is how you feel? You're ungrateful. There's no way you should be feeling like this. And it just hurt me because I was like, wow, I voiced myself first of all in a diary that he looked for and read it. And then when I saw it, I just froze because I'm like, you invaded my personal space, which, mind you, he felt like a child should not have personal space. I wasn't allowed to close doors. I wasn't allowed basically to do anything unless he deemed it okay. I can go ask him to go to the mall, and he will wait hours upon hours. And I'm like, hey, they're going to the mall at like 3. As a child, you don't want to go back and ask your parent again because you had already asked. You don't want to get told, I heard you the first time. But, I would ask around 10 or 11, and he would be like, I'll let you know. And then he would never say anything. So then when the time would come, it's 3 o'clock, and I'm like, hey, my friends, they want to go to the movies. They want to go to the mall. They want to go to the park or something. He would always be like, I heard what you said. I told you I would let you know when I'm ready to. And it would just... He told me, you don't make your own choices. I make your choices. And I was just like, wow. So not only do I already feel like I don't have control in my life, I physically don't have control over my life too. So once again, we're going to this downward spiral. Fast forward to high school. Boys start coming into play. And everything was just, you better not be looking at boys. You better not be talking to boys. I couldn't even... If I was to leave out the school and a boy was even remotely standing next to me, he would be, Elizabeth, I know you're not over there talking to no boys. And it didn't matter how many people was outside at the time. He didn't care. It was to embarrass me. And I could say, like, I don't even know him. I was just standing outside, and he was, excuse me, what are you... Like, he would make a scene to the point where, like, I don't know if you guys know what that feeling of just, like, feeling like everybody's just staring at you. And I already felt that way even when I knew people weren't. And he made me feel even more vulnerable to my own depression and my own anxiety and to just everything else in the world around me, that I felt like I didn't have a shield. I just felt like I was getting attacked from left and right. And it was specifically coming from home, because out in person, like out though in public, the way he would treat us, it was like literally people would tell him, oh my gosh, you're such an amazing father. I love the way you treat your kids. I love the way you treat your wife. But people didn't know that behind closed doors, we were walking on eggshells. We were literally being abused behind closed doors. Not physically, but mentally and verbally abused behind closed doors. And it really hurt me because I just felt like, dang, I'm just here to be life's punching bag. Because a lot of it was directed towards me. And, one repeated thing that I always heard growing up was, oh, because you look so much like your mother, I'm mad at you too. Who says that to a child? Like, seriously. Like, I'm going to try not to cry, guys, because You know, I feel like I've gotten to a place to where I could talk about this and be strong about it, and I don't want to cry because I don't want it to be viewed as weakness, because it's not weakness. It's just release for me, for one, and then two, it's just I feel like I forgave, and I should be able to tell my story without hurt, because I don't want anybody to ever think that I'm still hurt by this. But like I said, fast forward to high school. Mind you, this is ninth grade. I remember he changed my whole high school to a different one because of a boy. And literally I cried because I was just like, I knew for that point when I was on the track team there that I was going to make varsity there. But, you know, God's will, God's way, I still ended up making the varsity track team at this other school. But because of a boy, mind you, the whole time during the situation, like, I just flat out right said, yeah, I was texting things that I probably shouldn't have been texting at the time. What team didn't? Okay? What team didn't? But mind you, the whole time this man was cheating. And I won't give you guys how many times, because like I said, it's not my story to tell. That's my mother's. But just know it was more than enough that made me realize that he was not the man who he said he was in the beginning. Mind you, he has a daughter who, truthfully, he didn't deserve. We get to Tennessee, and mind you, I graduated. I was there from 10th to 12th grade. Graduated from there, and I'm skipping over a part. My freshman year in high school, still, when this incident happened, where once again texting a boy, something I shouldn't have been. Actually, no, this time I wasn't. The boy had sent a picture of himself. He was fully clothed. Cardigan, fitted cap, you know, just exchanging a picture. What most people, most kids did back then, you know, when kick days were around and stuff like that. And he saw that, and he went on this whole spiel because he couldn't find anything in my phone as far as like those type of messages. But there was nothing to find. I wasn't doing anything. And he thought I was lying, so he hit me in my face. And I had this huge purple bruise right here. He hit me so hard that literally my ears started ringing. And at that point, I just felt like nothing. Because I felt like, wow, this is happening again. Wow. I had completely clocked out at that point. And that was when the rest of my shutdown for life happened. I stopped talking completely. To the point where he even noticed. He even said, hey, what's wrong? I noticed you stopped talking. He wanted me to sit on his lap and everything. And he was like, you know, I just want you to be this daddy's girl like your sister. That wasn't going to happen. But literally, I shut down. And just, if you look back at older photos of me in like my 9th grade year, you can see it all over my face that I wasn't mentally there. I didn't even feel like I was physically there. Truth be told, I physically didn't want to be there. I did not. Then we get to Tennessee, his home state. And he just starts wilding out even more so. He would always decide to have, I wanted to have my first boyfriend then. And he told me 16 you can have a boyfriend, get to 16. 17 you can have a boyfriend, 17. Like, he kept pushing it back, and I just didn't understand why. Like, he would be very weird about things. And then I started noticing little things about him anyway, that was pointing to some real cringy things, the way he would look at girls my age, or say. And that was real unbecoming of a grown man, especially when your stepdaughter is in the 10th grade, 11th grade. floating 12th grade, because 12th grade he started diminishing out the picture because my mom was tired of it. My senior year, my stomach hurts. My senior year, you would think that it was less stressful, but I actually had a mental breakdown to the point where I just felt like I just needed to leave. I was in school. My granny had just passed, and I think the administrators had called my mom and told her that I was coming home because I just mentally couldn't handle being in school that day. It was just a lot, from senior dues to, about to graduate, colleges and all that stuff. It was just a lot for me, and I just mentally I couldn't handle it. So I left. So that was high school for me. Mind you, that's not even the icing on the cake. A piece of me, okay, I feel like I'm kind of jumping around because I feel like I'm ultimately dancing around the main thing. I've always hated when people said, when somebody would get killed or commit suicide, she was so pretty. They would say that almost like that meant, they would say that like that almost meant that pretty people don't go through life. Well, here to say this to anybody that's watching, when life decides it wants to lay itself in your lap, life does not care about how pretty you are, how much money you make, your status in life, how much good you've done in the world. Life doesn't care about that at all. Depression and anxiety don't discriminate age groups whatsoever. So when I see someone young commit suicide, my first instinct is, dang, they didn't see a way out. And that hurts me because at one point I was that same way. I contemplated no longer living because I felt like my tears didn't matter. I felt like every time I thought it was getting better, it wasn't. It was always something left to right, no matter what. And my mother's last husband, Adam, definitely put the icing on the cake, the cherry on top with that. Wow. I experienced life at the tender age of 7. And let's just call this person, let's go with Eric. Eric was, in the beginning, a trusted individual. It's always hard for me to tell this story. I don't hate anyone because I feel like hate is a very strong word. And even though what happened is... still can't bring myself to hate this person. Whew. He was a trusted individual. Mm-hmm. And, everything seemed fine today. And this is why I also had a lot of trust issues with people coming into my life and then changing. I was always scared that whoever came into my life, I always had to watch him, because I was always afraid that at one blink of an eye, like just a blink of an eye, everything would drastically change. So my guard was always up to the world. Didn't care who it was. Didn't care. The only worry a 7-year-old should have is when they get home from school, if they can go outside, or if I had that Barbie doll that my friend was talking about in school today. Things like that. But instead, my worry was coming home from school. And if it was going to be another day where I was going to wake up crying, or be locked in a room and then left there. Yeah. During this time, my mom was deployed in Pakistan. When she left us with this individual, there was no signs of anything to this extent. Like, there was nothing pointing to this, I should say. I remember it because she left not too long before Christmas, actually. And I remember it because she wasn't originally supposed to leave right away, but she had gotten a call that same day and said that they were leaving out, I think, that week. When my mom was deployed in Pakistan for a year, I went through my own personal hell. I questioned whether God existed. I questioned whether or not I felt like I deserved to live. The only thing that kept me there was my siblings, because I did not trust the individual that was there. Mind you, my sister, I was in 2nd grade. So my sister was 5 years younger than me at the time, so she was only 2. And my mom had just had my brother. My own personal hell started. I went through sleepless nights where I was afraid to go to sleep because I was scared that I was going to get beat out of my sleep. I went through so much in that townhome. So much of that, it ripped the innocence that I had. I was forced to see the world for what it really was. Being locked in a room and gagged on a school night, multiple school nights, at 1 or 2 in the morning, to the point where I'm sitting on the edge of this bed, scared at every creaking sound, thinking that it was going to happen again. That I still had to get up, wash my face, brush my teeth, and go to school as if nothing happened. I had so much fear as a 7-year-old. That I questioned so much in life. I cried sleepless nights for my mother. She didn't know that. She wasn't there. She couldn't be because she was deployed. Days where her friends would come over to do our hair, but they didn't know the reason why I was begging them to stay longer was because it was a cry for help. I don't want to give too much because, truth be told, it's not really an easy story to tell. And truthfully, I don't even want people to sit here and picture a lot of what I went through, because that's not what this video is about. This video is for people that often float around in this world who don't even remotely feel like they're here. Like I said, everybody feels like they're on pilot mode. It's just for the people that have gone through similar situations or gone through their own situations and just seemed like the world got so dark so fast. And who dealt with depression, which is when mine started, was 7. I truthfully didn't even get out of my depression until I was about 20, 21. My overall message here was to share my testimony in regards to the matter. I felt like I was wearing a mask for so long. I felt like I couldn't be who I was. I didn't even know who I was, truth be told. And that didn't help at all in life. Because I even went through this whole identity crisis phase where I just felt like, I don't know who I am. I don't know who I was supposed to be because I feel like that was taken from me. Why? But it took me so long to realize that sometimes you'll never get the why. Not in this physical world, of course, but at some point you'll gain a higher understanding of your calling and who you're supposed to be. So to jump ahead, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments. I'll answer them. I'm an open book, truthfully, and I have no issue with sharing my life. Because my ultimate goal is when I see people like me, and we're all so familiar in more than a lot of ways. When I see people like me, I instantly go to wanting to comfort, wanting to let them know that I see you. And that there is a way out, even though it seems like the pit that you're in just keeps getting deeper and deeper, and that there's no way out. You can't climb out because the walls are too far apart. Every time you try to climb out, it's like rock slides. It's like a landslide. Seems like the world around you is so dark, so cold. You just seem like you're walking this world alone, even though it's people around you. People label you as something you're not. I got labeled that I had a bad attitude problem, that I need help, that I need to seek counseling. I got told that my past was my crutch. And like I told you guys in the beginning, nobody knows. Only 2 people in this world know, and that's my mother and my husband. So how can somebody say that I use what happened to me as a crutch when I never talked about it? I didn't talk about it till I was 20. In Suffolk, Virginia, and I'll tell this story until I'm blue in the face. If I didn't believe in God, that night I did. Random night, my mom had this. My mom and my aunt had this fish fry coming up, and we were preparing for it for the morning. And we were up all day. Mind you, it was probably like 3 o'clock in the morning at this time. And out of nowhere, my mom brings up the situation, and me being me, I always wanted to sweep it under the rug. When anybody asked me, was I okay? I always kind of avoided that question because I didn't want to talk. I didn't know how to talk. I didn't know how to process the emotions I was dealing with. So this particular night, I started to sweep it under the rug, but I guess God placed it on my mother and me to say no more. Because what I have prepared for you, you cannot go into this new walk of life still carrying on this baggage, still holding that little girl's hand. The little girl is your anchor, not your sail. And she told me during the time, that full year, and even after that year, because it didn't stop there at that townhome. My sister had saw everything, and that broke me because I tried to shield her from what was going on, because a lot of the time I would take the rap for any and everything just so he wouldn't do what he was doing to me to her. And that broke me. I could not contain myself. I felt like my soul had left my body. And mind you, I still had not completely told my mother about what all went down in that house. I told her bits and pieces after the fact, because I could say God's grace was still shown within that, because it could have went so left that I wouldn't even be sitting here. But even through it, God still kept me. And I may not have understood that then because I was only 7, but I understand that now. But I broke down. And my soul left my body. And I got so cold. And I remember my mom holding me, and I felt like I was a little girl again. It's just like so many memories just started flashing. And I couldn't breathe. I fell to the ground and I couldn't breathe. My mom literally had to grab my face, and she was like, "Elizabeth, you need to breathe." I got up and she walked me to the living room. And we were just standing there. She was talking to me, and I don't remember what she was saying to me. But I just remember shaking, and I was just standing there rocking. And I got so scared because, and you guys, whether you believe me or not, I'm going to say it again. If I didn't think God existed before, I knew now, and I knew then. Standing there, I was standing right next to the staircase. So like the staircase is literally right here to me. And my mom is literally standing in front of me. And she's talking to me, but I can't hear her. I can't hear her. I can see her, but I can't hear her. I literally felt like my physical being shut down. Like it went into overdrive mode. Like it didn't know what to do. It didn't know how to comprehend. And I felt like the me that was screaming to get out for so long, that was screaming, "Do you see me in here?" was trying to climb its way out. But it was going through this battle on the inside because I felt like I was by myself. And I felt like I was like screaming. I was like, "I don't know how to get out of here. I don't know how to get out of here." And I do remember saying this to my mom. I was like, "You don't see that." And she said, "Huh?" I said, you it's staring at me. And she just kept saying, what's staring at you? I was like, there's something on the stairs and it's staring at me. And she looked at it, she's like, Elizabeth, I don't see anything. I was like, it's just standing there. She said, what does it look like? I was like, it's just big and black. It keeps ducking behind the wall of the stairs, but it keeps coming back and staring at me. And all my mom could do, I remember she said, oh my God, and she just started praying. In that exact moment, that thing manifested, which in my eyes to this day, depression, anxiety, fear, that's not of God. Faith and fear can't coexist. When I tell you, all of that emotion is that of the enemy, and it manifested itself outside of me. I don't know what this thing, this creature was, but it was there, standing there. And I had never seen it outside of me. It was always in me. And to realize that that was what was in me for 13 years of not talking, of lying about how I truly felt, about all the lash outs that I had in my life from anger, about feeling like I was worth nothing, about trying to be perfect for somebody that was never going to see my efforts, about just feeling like, why am I here? Why did God create me? Why am I here? Because if I was here to be last punching bag, I'd rather not. And I honestly felt like killing myself was the only way out. But in that moment where I'm watching this thing manifest outside of me, these weird like orbs just start forming in front of my face. Just like this. Splotching around. So then I said to my mom, I said, do you hear that? She says, I don't hear nothing. I said, Mom, I hear somebody. Mind you, it's probably like 4 o'clock in the morning at this point. And I'm still standing in a spot, locked. I feel like my feet are glued to the ground. I can't move. I didn't know how to move. I felt like a vegetable, literally, just standing there stuck. She said, I don't hear that. I said, Mom, because it sounded like music at first. And I was like, is there somebody outside? And she went to go look outside. Quiet as a mouse. Dark as all get out. Everybody's lights were off. And at the time we were living in the country, so there was no street lights. There was nothing. Nothing. Literally, if you went to go stand outside, you could probably see all the stars, comets, and you could hear the tree branches from the trees blowing in the wind. And she said, what's wrong? What do you hear? I was like, something is singing. And then it went from singing to something is talking. And she said, what is it saying? I said, I don't know. It's not talking to me. But it's so, I told her, it was so powerful. So powerful. Mind you, this thing that I had watched manifest outside of me, I saw it walk behind my mom before we even moved to the living room. But as I'm standing in this living room, like I said, now it's on the stairs. I'm listening to this powerful voice talk to this creature. And I'm watching this creature come down the stairs. It goes in between me and my mother, and I'm just watching it like this. And she said, where is it at now? I said, it's over there by the door, the front door. And it was just sitting there. Just there. And I'm listening to this powerful voice. And I lie to you not. This was God's voice. Because it was so powerful. So firm. So mighty. Just, it boomed, but it didn't scare me. In that moment, I promise you, I'm watching this thing leave, and I swear it was talking to this thing. I swear God was telling this thing that you can't have my child anymore. That was my moment of deliverance. That was my battle. You know that song, for the battle is not yours, it is the Lord's? Oh, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. In that moment, I literally witnessed God cast out something and remove it from my life. I watched this thing leave out of me, out of the house. But it kept looking back at me as if it wanted me to let it back in, as if it was saying she's going to let me back in. But God kept talking to it and talking to it. I mean, booming. And then it disappeared. Then I start swaying. And my mom went upstairs to go take a shower, to go grab her blanket. She took like a military shower. It was like not even 5 minutes, honestly, because she wanted to make sure I was okay. She came back downstairs with her blanket and her pillow. And I was still standing in the same spot. Mind you, I was standing in the same spot for about 35, 40 minutes. And she was like, I kind of figured you'd be still standing in the same spot. I was like, I can't move. After I listened to the voice die down and echo out, the voice came back and it said, now rest. I literally fell to the ground. And my mom, mind you, the sun was up at this point. It's probably like 6 o'clock in the morning too. Like I know the time frame seemed odd, but I was standing for a long time. I was crying for a long time. Honestly, I wasn't even paying attention to the time. I went to go lay down because this voice told me to. It told me to go rest. I'm supposed to be finishing up my makeup. I don't even care, guys. This voice told me to go rest. And I'm still seeing these orbs float around too. I wasn't really too sure about what those were, and honestly to this day I really think they were just God's angels sent to manifest in front of me. And honestly, they weren't even scary. It was very comforting actually. They were just like these little white balls of light that just kept flashing. It was almost like, you know, if you get your picture taken and you see the orbs afterwards from it. After I rested that morning, which I didn't even sleep long. I probably slept for about like 2 hours. I felt like a baby. I felt like a baby getting, you know, put to sleep. Honestly. I woke up and I felt like everything was new. I felt like I wasn't familiar with the house I was in. And mind you, I had been there the whole time. Like, I felt like I was given a new set of eyes. I felt like I was giving new mind, new hands, new feet, a new body, a new chance at life. After fighting a battle for so long, or I don't even say fighting, avoiding a battle for so long, I finally got to a point where God had told me that it's time to stop running and fight the battle. I felt like God gave me a new chance at life. I felt like the body that I was born into, I could now live in it. I felt like I was present. I was actually here. That it wasn't just I felt like I wasn't just an empty vessel anymore. I felt like God had made me born again. I felt like I was born into a new life again. But it was still the same life. But He actually gave me a chance. I felt like I was given a chance to live again. And that's my overall message to anybody that's going through life. It may seem like it's never going to get any better. It may seem like it just keeps getting worse. You often want to instantly go into asking why God. It makes you question your faith. God doesn't make you question your faith, the enemy does. But it makes you question your belief system. And it begins to place doubt in your life. Doubt, anxiety, stress, anger, fear. All the things that my God isn't. And truth be told, if it wasn't for me holding on a little bit longer and remaining faithful, which is actually what my name means, Imani means faith. If it wasn't for me remaining faithful and still turning to God even in moments where I didn't understand it, I don't think I'd be here. I don't think I would have had my husband. I don't think I would have had my kids. I don't think I would physically be here. I truly believe that night God saved me. I don't care what nobody says. Whether they say, oh, you were probably hallucinating from stress, you're not going to undermine what I saw, what I heard. My testimony is meant to be shared, but my relationship with God isn't for anybody else to understand but me. I just want people to know that God, for one, gives his toughest battles to his strongest people because he knows you're strong. Not because he wants to break you whatsoever. Not at all. God isn't the evil in this world. That's not him. And I know people always say, well, why did he let me go through it? And honestly, we all have that question of, God, if you could have stepped in, why didn't you? And it's a question for you to ask when you finally, reach the pearly gates. But I'll say this to say also, too, if you're thinking about ending your story soon, please don't. Please don't. Because there's so many people out here that are looking for people like you, searching for people like you, whether they know it or not that they're searching for it, for you to tell your story to help them. You are so much more stronger than you think, than you know, than you feel. And I'll be honest with you, it's okay to be tired too. It is okay to be tired. It was so many times that I was tired of being tired. So many times that I was tired of just feeling like nothing is working. No matter what I do, I take 2 steps forward, I'm taking 10 steps back. But I am personally here to tell you that you have a story to tell. And whether or not you know it, your story is not only to help the next person, but it's to also be a living testament to God and his glory, his mercy, and his works. There's a reason behind a lot of things that we may not be able to understand in this very moment, but I also feel like without those reasons, if things were just to happen and there was no clarity afterwards, that would mean our pain and suffering went in vain. But God had already died for our sins. And I don't believe that God would ever put you through anything for it to go in vain. I truthfully feel like he will use you as living proof to the next person, to the mass. And I honestly want people to understand that if you just hold on, and I know that sounds so cliche, and I know that sounds so tiresome, but it's the God's honest truth. If you just hold on, pray, remain faithful and steadfast, resilient, obedient, I can almost guarantee you that your dark days are most definitely numbered. Because what's truly meant for you is greatness, success, abundance, life, love, happiness, joy. God has something in store for you. This is why I say you can't end your story short. Don't make any choices that are going to stop what God has designed for you. Because though the enemy tried to steal what God had planned, the enemy only knows your past. He does not know your present or your future. God does. And God is the final say. He's the end all be all. He's the Alpha, the Omega. He is the great I am. And I promise you that you are not alone in this world. That you have a tribe. You have support. You have love. You have somebody that understands. Whether that person is a mile away or 10,000 miles away. I'm telling you, I understand. I want people to know that despite what it looks like, it will get better. It is better, because if you think about where you were versus where you are now, you're still here. And that's the biggest thing. But I do encourage most people, all people, to please talk. If you've ever been through anything, whether you were essayed, whether you were abused, in any matter, it doesn't matter. Whatever is going on in your life that you feel like is too much for you not to tell somebody because you don't want to burden them, please talk. Please open that door, because what the enemy wants you to do is keep it in, keep it bottled up to the point where it consumes you. Don't let it consume you. Talk. No matter how you think it might make somebody else feel. Talk. Share. Because you never know who you might be sharing your story with, because a message could be delivered to you from God through a person to let you know that He sees you, that He hears you, that He's there. And if you just come back to Him and seek His voice and seek His face, the journey, that battle, the one that I spoke about too, you will not go through it alone, and you are never going through it alone. God is there. He is your protector. He is your shepherd. I promise you. That battle, though it is tiresome, though it is hard, God is there holding your hand and telling you, come to me. Look forward, not backwards. But I want to wrap this up by saying, if you are watching this, just know that I love you. I'm sending a virtual hug. And that if you do want to talk, please feel free to comment or email me or DM me. I'm always open ears. I have what I like to call a everlasting ear. There's nothing that nobody can burden me with. But I do want you to know that this is a safe place, and that I truly pray that you get the healing and deliverance that God has planned and designed for you.